Hello everyone, I am Avinash Vijayan. So today we will look at the test management capabilities and features of Agile Central tool. First we will look at how to create a test case and how to execute it. You can find all your test cases in your project by going into quality test cases. So this will display all the test cases under your project. Also, you can find out your test cases by going into a user story and go to the test cases tab of the user story. You will be able to see all the test cases under that user story. These test cases are linked to the user story, but you might see the test cases which are not linked to any user stories also under the test cases menu or the test cases page. Let's look at how to create a test case. You can create a test case from this page by going into actions, new test case, and give the name. Name is the only mandatory field in a test case. You can give the description, your project, so that will be automatically selected. The owner will be your name. You can attach any attachments and you can link it to a test folder, which I'll come to it later. You can add an objective, preconditions, input, output. You can add steps here. So by clicking in this button, for example, if I want to add 3 steps, I need to select 3, so that will add 3 steps for me. 1, 2, 3. So this becomes a mandatory now. So I need to give the input and the expected response for each step. 1, 2, 3, and save. So that will create a test case. If I click on add details, I can still go and view that. So you can view that same test case. That's the test case I've created. Cancel it. So another way to create it is from inside that user story. So go to the user story which you want to create your test cases on. For example, I go to iteration status. Currently I'm in an iteration. I got a user story to test, so I go into the user story and look at the acceptance criteria, and I design my tests. I go into test cases and actions, new test case, same window, add all my details, save and close. So that test case is created, and this is linked to the user story. We want to add another case, give your details, save and close. Even you can use the save and new window, which will be easy for you when you are creating multiple test cases. So I'll say test case 3, give all the details, save and new, so I don't really need to go to actions again. So now again I can add next test case 5, save and new, give all the details in between. So that's easy for you to create more and more test cases right there. Okay, so created all these test cases. Also, there is an option here, inline add. So if you give this, you can add a test case from this screen. Test case 4. That's it. So just say, so that's created for you. The only problem is that's not really linked to any user story or anything. So that's not really advisable. So always try to create a test case from inside the user story, so that your linkage, the traceability will be automatically done for you. Okay, so that's how you that's all how you create the test cases, and let's see how to execute a test case. So that's also can be done from the test case or from the user story. So let me go back to that user story, and we have 3 test cases. So you should go to run these 3 test cases, you should go to the test run tab in the user story. Okay, you can see a high level thing here. Already you have, I think, 1 test cases which is executed. That's why it is 33% passing out of the 3. But if you want to run, for example, this one, the first one, you can see the last verdict is pass. So if you want to see all the failed ones, you can use these filters if you have a lot of test cases under this use story to filter your results, filter your view. So I'm going to run the second test case. So what you need to do is, to execute that test case, the first click on this first icon. So it's called new test case result. So basically you are recording a test case result for this test case. So this is a mandatory field which we can't really disable. So if you have got a build number which you are testing, you can give that, or just give not applicable or something. And the verdict is either pass or fail. So basically you can record that and save it. The difference between a QC test run and a rally test run is you can't really run individual test steps. You should run the entire, so that there is only one run which is for the entire test case. If any of your test steps are failing, then you should fail the entire test case. That's how you do it. You can run it over and over again. So if you want to fail the same test case, click on that and just say fail. Another, maybe in a different build, save and close. So that became failed, and now you can see. Also, there is another way of executing the test case, that is from the test plan, or even you can run it from by going into test cases. Click on that same test case result thing is available in that window also, so you can run it from here. Okay. Fail, save and close. So that's the test case result is added for you. Also, you can run it from the test plan, which I will show you later, or even from the test set. Okay, that's how you actually run a test case. And now let's look at test plans. So test plan is basically to organize your tests into folders. So that you can find all your test plans by going into quality test plan menu. So that will display all the test folders. So it's basically test folder rather than test plan. So you can see there are 3 test folders here, and you can see the high level execution status also here by just hovering over this one. So you can expand it and see what test cases are in here. I'll show you how to create it. You can create child test folders. You can let me see whether there is any child. Okay, yeah, so any test folder is identified starts with TF, like a test case starts with TC. Okay, and this TF number is assigned by Rally itself, TF or TC number. So I want to create a test folder under this folder. So what I need to do is click on new inline test folder. So test folder. So that I've created a child test folder for me. So now I want to add some test cases into that folder. So what you need to do is click on the first option is inline new test case. That means you can create test cases right from here. Test case 1. So you can create like that, or so that's inline, or you can create a test case by going into the details page. So that's the third option, new test case. That you can create a test case with all the details like we have seen earlier. Okay. Also, you can add test cases. That's how you actually link the existing test cases. So this will display all the test cases under that project. You can do a keyword search. So this is not a very easy way to link your test cases. Yeah, you might know your test case name. If you have named it properly, you will be able to see all of it. And it's not a very easy way to do it. So you choose. So that will add all those test cases under that test folder. Okay. Another way is, if you have the test folder already, while you create the test case itself, you can link it from the test case creation window. So that's the easiest way to attach this test to a test folder if you are actually using test folders. One test case can be linked to only one test folder. You can't attach one test case to multiple folders. You can delete test folders if you want by clicking on this one. So if you delete a parent test folder, it won't delete the child test folders automatically. It will just delete the top level only. Yeah. You can do drag and drop ranking of your test cases inside if you want. You can rank them accordingly. That will rank for you automatically. You can run all these tests at a shot. For example, if you click on the first button, which is run button, that you can execute all the test cases, and you can see all the test cases right here. So this is all the test cases. You can see all first test case, second test case, third test case with all the details, and you just record a test result right from here. You can run it, build. So first test case is a passed it, so that's done. So you can see the progress bar. The second test case, for example, if it is failed, I'm going to fail it. Yeah. So that's the easiest way to run your tests if you are using test folders. Of course, you can run it from inside the user story, but this is also another way of doing it. So that you can actually see the progress right here. So even if you go out by, yeah, so you can see that high level progress. So if you want to test a feature, test cases will be linked to a particular user story, and if you are doing UAT or something, then if you want to test some test cases from many user stories, and if all are linked to a feature, then you can create a test folder for a feature and then select all the stories, relevant test cases to a test folder, and run it from there, so that you will know what's going on with each feature, maybe a feature level testing. And another thing is test set. Test set is similar to test plan. It's a collection of test cases, but that can be used like a user story. I'll come to that. And that need to be used only in a release or an iteration. That's the difference. So if I go to my iteration status page, you can see anything start with a TS is a test set. For example, if you need to run a smoke test for an iteration, you can create a test set and select some test cases like you have selected for test plan, which I will come to it, and then you can run it to say it's a smoke test, pass or failed. The good thing is this test set is similar to a user story. You can assign points to it, you can add task estimates, to do hours, and also you can see the status of your test cases here. So it starts from backlog, defined, in progress, completed, and accepted. So it can be considered as similar to a user story, and the status will be displayed on the iteration status graphs as well. If you are creating a test folder, you won't be able to do this. You won't be able to record your estimates and time against that effort. So it's good to use test folders in that context. The only downside is you won't be able to use test sets outside a sprint or a release. So this should be always linked to a sprint or release. So you can create test folders from here. Create new test set. So not test folders, test sets. So you can just create new test sets from here. Test set 1. So just add. That will add the test set for you. So just move it to the top. So this is the test set which I have created now. So that is in backlog. Now I want to link some test cases. So I'll say add existing test cases. Click on this settings gear. Add existing test cases. I can filter out my projects, or you can even add test cases from a different project to a test set. Yeah. and I can do a keyword. I can even search based on a test folder. So if, for example, if you have some test cases which are regression test cases which are in a test folder, you can reuse them by adding it in a test set. Yeah. So I'm going to add some test cases. You can select like this, or select add. So now you can see that these many test cases are added. You can assign some points to it. For example, this is a 5-pointer. It can be considered the same as a user story. And to run that 5 test cases, I need so for example, if you want to add a task also, in case if you want to capture your burn down, you can add tasks to run it. So I'll say add a child inline, and I will say it's a task. So execution. Execution. 10 hours to run those, or maybe 5 hours to run that 5 test cases, huge test cases. Create. So now that will add 5 hours also to it, so that all these graphs are refreshed based on that. And once you execute it, you can execute it right from here, or you can execute it from inside that user story which is linked to it. So for example, I want to add a result to that test case, I just add it. Or you can run all of it together like in a test plan. If you go here, so if you go to the test set, run. So this is similar to that view which you have seen earlier from the test folder. So you add your test results here, so you can run all those tests right from the test set. So you say it's passed, and you can record defects here. If the second button is defects, so this is applicable. This can be done even from inside the test folder when you run it. So the second button can create a defect. If it is failed, that will create a defect for you. Just not doing it now. This is actually useful to run your regression test cases. So for example, if you want to reuse the same test set next time in your next iteration, you can actually take a copy of it. So that what that will do is, so right now if you can see there is pass 1 of 4. That means 1 test case is passed out of 4 test cases. I can take a copy of it. So just copy. So that I have created a copy of test 1. Where is that? Yeah, this is the one. So I can rename it same test 1 in iteration 2. So this might be done in the next iteration. So what it have done is it have copied all the test cases from the above, but it have reset all the that run status. So if you go here, you can see all the test cases, including the tasks, are copied. Yeah. So that's a good thing. And including the story point. So usually the effort will be the same even if you are running it in any iteration. So that now you can reuse the same test set, which could be your smoke test or your regression case for a particular feature. So this is a very helpful and useful feature. And now we can run it like a new set. Yeah. And you can record your time, your progress, so that your Scrum Master will know how you are progressing with that test set. Okay, so that's all in the test set side, and I'll show you how to import some test cases using Excel sheet. As we have seen, it's not really nice to create test cases in this test case creation window. You can always create your test cases in Excel sheet and import it into Agile Central. I'll show you how to do it. You should go to test cases, quality test cases, and actions, import test cases. Yeah. So when you click here, you can see a import template. So if you are doing it for the first time, you can download this template from here and reuse that template later. So click on the import template. That will open up that template for you. So this is the template which got downloaded. There are only two mandatory fields in this, your object type and name. These are only two mandatory fields. Rally have added a new feature where you can add test steps also into it. Earlier you were not able to download test steps along with test cases, but now that is possible, even though it's not as friendly as the QC import functionality. I've actually created one already, so to save some time. So I've created the template with these details. For your test case, you will say the object type as test case. The help is available in, let me show you that. So if you want to know more about it, you can click on this help page. That will take you to the full details of how to do it, but I'll show you now anyway. So that will give you all the details about how to export your details. Test case should be, the level should be identified with test case, and the name, the type manual if you want it. If you don't want it, just delete it. That will go with the default values. And if you want to link it with the user story, that's usually the case, right? So you will be exporting this into a use. So you should know the user story number, and you should add this as work product. So you can add any field, even though it is not present in the template. You can add those fields into it with the proper names, the correct name. So for example, in the downloaded template, I didn't have the user story, so I have added work product. So you can find that names by going into your story and checking what are the fields. For example, if I go into a test case and see what that's called work product. If you want to add an objective, you just copy that name, objective, add it into the header, like objective in here, so that you can add objectives also. There is step index, input, and expected result. This is only applicable for a test step, so you keep that blank. Even that these four columns are not the columns for a test case. That's for a test step. So you keep that blank, and you want to add 5 test steps to it. So you add you say test step. You need to say test step for each step, and you will set step index 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the input for each step is this, and the expected response is this. And this is not very friendly, but you have to do this. Either you should, if the test case is already created, you can say the test case number here, TC number from here, TC565, but usually you are creating a new test case, so you won't have that test case number. So you need to actually refer this to the line number to which this test steps to be linked. For example, in this case, the line number is line number 2, the row number 2 is the test case, so you should say line 2. In the next, maybe if I'm creating a next set, copy, just creating another test case. So in that case, the line should be line 8. Yeah. So that's the difference. Yeah. Next, if I'm creating the next set, it will be line 9, line 14. So that's not very friendly, but it's useful. I'm just saving it, and I'm going to upload this test case. There are 2 test cases. Import, browse, test case. I've created that already. You need to validate it first. So it's validated. Now import. Yeah. So if all those are imported successfully. So in order to see it, you can either go to that. Of course, I have created under this use story. I can navigate to that use story and check it out. Do a search. If you know where your history is, you can directly go there. So these are the 2 test cases which I added right now. If I go in there, I can see the test steps, details which I gave, and it automatically linked to this particular user story since I gave that user story name there. If I don't give that user story, you won't be able to see it inside the user story, but you need to see it from the test cases menu. that's how you import a test case. Now let's look at defect management. So defects, you can create it from many places. You can create it from quality defects. If you go to quality defects, it will display all the defects which are under your project. Also, you can go into a user story and see your defects in the defects tab. These defects are actually linked to this particular user story, so you can see that way. Also, you can see the defects in the iteration status page under track menu. This is where your current iteration is. You can see all the defects right there as well. If it is under user story, that will be here. Like for example, this defect is under this user story. Yeah. Also, you can create defects in the backlog, plan backlog. So most of the rally pages, you can create a defect. You can create a new defect from here. That will directly add your defect into the backlog, but it will not be linked to any user story. You can create defects from the Kanban board. If you are a Kanban team, you might be working from a Kanban board. In that case, you can create defects right from the Kanban board itself. And you can pretty much most of the places you can create defects. So let me show you how to create one defect. I think I've shown this already in an earlier webinar. So you will have defect state. This is the one which you usually use, like the QC defect status. So you don't have all the statuses, but you have some of it, and you might not use a schedule state for a defect because you will be starting from submitted, open, fixed, defect, failed, closed, or rejected, like that. And if you want to give a story point, a point to a defect, you can do, but usually you don't really do it. And pretty much most of the standard fields for a defect you can fill in, and only the name is like before, only the name is a mandatory field in this case. All the other fields are either automatically populated or it's not mandatory. So based on your thing, you can populate any of it, and you just create. I'll go have a read there. Also, just one more thing to show you guys. If I go to test cases, you can see some quick views here. You can see all the test cases, or the test cases never run. It will display all the ones. You can see not passing, which will show you all the failed ones, or the ones which are not run at all. And you can see all the defects with all the test cases with active defects underneath. Okay. Also, you can create your own views by going in here, clicking on that view button. You can give a view name there. You can add any filter conditions. You can add the filter conditions here. Maybe give your name, or the owner as you, my name, and then I want to see all my test cases here. And you can decide what columns need to be seen in that view also. So that's how you do it. So that's pretty much it.